To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Hey, here we are.
People of the internet.
What's up?
I know. We were talking about, John being the food expert and aficionado, and coming from the business. I asked what he says when his wife cooks, and is he smart enough to not say, "Oh, honey, this is horrible. You need to do this, this, and this." And John was explaining how his wife is an excellent cook. But we have John, my buddy John, and of course AR Comics.
What's up, everybody?
Since yesterday.
It's been a big whole day.
So, and I was talking to Robbie today, and mentioned
Here we go.
Your displeasure with him being an Eagles fan.
Oh no!
And
Cowboys.
And he was very arrogant, of course, because they're going to win the division, and we both know it.
That's fine. They can take the division for a first round exit. That's no problem.
I told him that your theory, and he kind of went a little silent at that moment. So
he knows.
Yeah, well, you and I both know what's going to happen. So I kind of like your theory now. So we got Ronald in the house. Hey, buddy. So, proof of life. It's always nice to hear Ronald hop right on there. Blink twice. We know you're alive. And our buddy Dave from Cali. What's going on, Dave, buddy? And Sheldon. Hey, listen, we got the crowd in the house today.
I do have the crowd. I don't
so,
what's up, everybody?
Don't blame me when you get hungry.
All right. So for our early arrivals, we're going to do what we always do, New Comic Book Day, in a second. But tonight we have Shadow Midnight in Moscow, number 6, high-end Howard Chaykin, ultra limited digital cover, and it has a suggested retail of $75. But the first people in the show can claim it for $5 flat. It is not best offer takes it. $5 flat for whoever claims it first. And as Nick is saying, hit the thumbs up button. So first person who wants it gets it at $5.
That's Nick's favorite Shadow story, actually, I think.
Wait, say that again?
I'm pretty sure that's Nick's favorite Shadow story. Midnight Over Moscow.
DC story is my favorite. We are honored to tell the story that led into that. That's the story that led into that. So it's part of my favorite.
Anyway, it's $5. So beyond all the history stuff. Anyway, it's $5. Okay, can you get a cup of coffee at Starbucks for $5? I don't think
Probably not.
You get water.
They won't give it to you for free. I've tried.
No, a bottle of water is like $4.25.
Thank you.
Is it really?
For contributing that, John.
I'm sorry. People going to Starbucks deserve what they get.
Yeah, I agree with that. I never eat at Starbucks. Bye, Mariano. He hates it when I do that. That was Mariano Nicieza. Creator extraordinaire,
ran out the door.
He ran out the door. He did.
I absolutely want to follow him with the laptop going, wait, can we get a quote for the
show?
We're
doing that. We're totally doing that. Okay? We are totally doing that.
Every time I bomb into his office to say hello, he's up to like his four-headed work. So I'm like, hey, let me bounce this idea off you. And he's like, I really want to waste time talking to you, but I've got like 9 things to do.
Too funny. All right. So, again, real quick. First off, for our early viewers, those that kind of like the what do they call it? The early bird special.
Early bird special.
Shadow Midnight in Moscow, number 6, high-end Howard Chaykin, ultra limited edition, digital cover. Suggested retail of $75, and we have it tonight for $5 for the first person that claims it. So now we go to the New Comic Book Day with John. And AR, jump in at any point with any comments that you have, and I leave you two experts to go through it.
I'll tell you right now.
Let John start off.
Happy New Comic Book Day, everybody. The best day of the week. Dynamite has 3 books in stores this week. One book has about 17 different covers, and I'm not going to take the first hour to go through them all. Nick did this excellent video. I've put it out there on my social media feed. He lets you know all the creators who have done these. It's Purgatory, issue 1. I might be exaggerating at 13, but it's at least 10.
You know, AR asked, for a more detailed description of Purgatory when I was on his show yesterday.
I was really looking forward to talking about it because
here's your chance, because here's the Dynamite expert. Okay, he's more of an expert than Nick is. All right, he knows more about the ins and outs of all of our titles, even more than Nick does.
Because I was actually just talking to my.
Oh, yeah, definitely. No comment from Nick, as you noticed, but I'll be the first one to say
I don't know about that.
I said it.
Purgatory always, to me, is like a manifested character, right? Because you already had characters out there like Vampirella who were sort of doing their thing.
Right.
A variety of characters, Satana from the kind of Marvel magazine era, what I used to call the Curtis verse. And of course, nothing exists in a vacuum, right? One character leads to another character, leads to another character.
Right.
Purgatory to me is like the daughter and granddaughter of all these kind of satanic / cheesecake / wink and a nod characters. She's evil, but not really evil. You know what I mean? It's the Jessica Rabbit. I'm just drawn that way. Purgatory has sort of had Purgatory, almost like a motorcycle, can be finicky. It stops, it starts, it runs really good, then someone else takes over and maybe it's not quite there. Since it came to Dynamite, it's been at a pretty consistent level. And I think they really kind of captured the essence of the character. Now, I know some of the old school fans from like the Chaos days feel that it's not quite, my understanding was I did not collect everything from Chaos, but my understanding is some of that stuff was pretty like right up against the wall.
Right.
And I don't think Dynamite tries to be a little bit more, friendly for everybody, because there's certain Chaos comics back in the day you just would read, like retailers would have them way up on a top shelf and you'd be like, almost like when Dave Vigil, Dave Vigil did Faust. It was super hot for a while, but that book had to be put way, way, way up to the back. By making Purgatory a little bit, I don't even want to say kinder and gentler. I'll say by making Purgatory a little bit more accessible, she becomes a lot more accessible to other people. Saw a ton of Purgatory cosplays a couple of years ago in both Chicago and San Diego.
So Dave is asking, can John please say wink and nod closer to the camera and in slow motion? I tried, Dave. I don't know what to tell you.
Purgatory will take her place alongside the other pantheon of Dynamite characters, female characters, really well. We're at this sort of point now where, men are writing women characters, women writing men characters, everybody's writing, and it really shows in the stories we're getting.
Right.
With Betty Page, with Elvira, with Red Sonja, with Vampirella, with Purgatory, with Jennifer Blood. I mean, we're getting all this huge diverse spectrum of creators. And I think originally Purgatory suffered a little bit from the echo chamber. You had like 3 or 4 people that saw the character the same way.
Right.
So that's how the character kind of existed in this static sort of. So after you read the first 5 or 6 issues of Purgatory, when it was a Chaos thing, you were like, okay, I get it. Like, I get everything that's going on here. Vampirella, they always kept fresh and changing. Even Satana in Marvel, who's a lower tier character, but they've always tried to do different takes.
Right.
Purgatory was sort of like a little bit of a flying amber for a while. So I would very strongly recommend, if you're kind of looking for something that fits the season, something that's written a little bit more broad base, I would absolutely suggest this week you pick up Purgatory. And with Dynamite's take, it's not something you necessarily need to go back and read.
Right.
Like I would tell someone, if they woke up today and decided to read The Shadow, I'd be like, there's a whole bunch of graphic novels or collections that you should read so you understand the character. Purgatory, you kind of get in like a Wikipedia explanation, and then you're just ready to go.
Well, AR on his show yesterday mentioned something that actually is good for new collectors trying to pick up new titles. He had mentioned getting the omnibuses and the hardcovers, as a great way to kind of catch up. And I thought that was a really very relevant point that we haven't really touched on. In our show is that if you're getting in a new title and you're trying to catch up, an omnibus or a hardcover, which AR is a big fan of, is a great way for you to get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the Dynamic Forces website essentially has the complete catalog of everything. I joke around and say that I have all the Dynamite comics. They literally have the complete catalog of every single thing that's been printed.
You're taking something home today.
Back issues, collections, and then the omnibuses, which are just.
He's got an Elvira book over there, an omnibus.
I think that came from like a Kickstarter or something. I'm not actually. I got to check. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to take.
He's going to check it when he takes it home later.
You're taking it. Stop. You can always have two.
Oh. I try to take things from here that I don't have already, because that's just kind of greedy.
Okay. Unless it's Green Hornet. So
no, well, the day that on the original art show, I think Nick had something from Alex Ross, and I was like, I don't have any Alex Ross original art. Doink.
So,
let's continue. New comic book.
Yeah. You're not done yet.
Next book that's coming out is Betty Page, Curse of the Banshee #5. This is another book where there are a lot of, not quite as many, but there are a lot. I think there's 4 or 5 different covers. Joseph Michael Linsner did one. We have a cosplay cover.
Those covers are always awesome.
Very cool black and white cover. And then, of course, there's sort of the somewhat naughty cover. Betty is, and is this Peach Momoko? I can't see. We have this cover too. We really have to get these images to Kyle before 6 o'clock.
Right. So,
Betty Page, Stephen Mooney from Half Past Danger. He's done some other stuff too, but I think probably he's best known for Half Past Danger, and I certainly don't want to, put any words in his mouth or anything. He understands the era. And that's super important when you have these books created.
Right.
Betty is sort of a child of the 50s, right? So you can't, you know what I mean? You have to kind of, she can be strong, she can be smart, she can be capable, but she's still limited by the era she's in.
Right, I got you.
You know what I mean? You can't have a creator turning her into like a hacker or, like a jet pilot when, people don't even have jets yet. You have to sort of keep her within and I think the creators that have worked on Betty Page have absolutely done that. And I think Stephen Mooney, based on his previous work, Half Past Danger takes place during World War II in the South Pacific. Very Tales of the Brass Monkey. If you don't get that reference, Google it. And I think he's a real good fit for Betty. He did one of the covers, and he mentioned on social media, he mentioned on Twitter that he's got something else coming up for Betty Page, sort of like a little bit of surprise, whatever. Right. I didn't want to pester Nick because I actually wanted to be surprised. I wanted to see what it was. I didn't,
Well, if you want, we can call you at 3 o'clock in the morning and let you know.
I hope so. Last book we have coming out this week is Red Sonja, Black, White, and Red. We also have 5 different versions of this cover, black and white, some no trade dress, which is very cool.
That's awesome.
And my friend and Twitter mutual, Gracie the cosplayer. I think this is in black and white, but I also think there's a color version of this somewhere too. I just didn't grab enough copies of this.
So is that story, the black, white, and red, is that have a bunch of mini stories? Because
essentially, yeah. It's like a collection. There are a lot of cosplayers that have appeared as Red Sonja on the cover of Dynamite books. I've been following Gracie. We followed each other on social media before she became that level of cosplayer.
Right.
And I saw some of Gracie's Red Sonja cosplays like a couple of years ago. And I was pestering her to send stuff to Nick. And no. But then she started winning contests and getting sponsors and becoming a professional cosplayer. And cool. It's weird. In a weird way, it's like a win for me to see like one of my social media friends
right on
the cover of a Dynamite comic.
Well, I think that it's interesting how the role of the cosplayer has evolved. Originally it was just someone who dressed up to go to cons and things like that, and thanks, I guess, really thanks to social media, it's grown into something where you can become a professional cosplayer.
It's like a micro industry. There
Yeah.
are sponsors out there, primarily comic book companies.
Right.
I think DC in particular has a small but very talented roster of models that cosplay. They go to the cons and they cosplay.
Right.
I follow one of them. He is one of the Nightwing cosplayers. And he fitness model, kickboxer, everything you would expect.
Right.
And guy looks like $1 million. Everybody loves him, and he puts on a suit and he looks like Nightwing. He's trying to always get DC. His name is Rob with 2 B's. I'll put his stuff out on social media a little bit later. He's always trying to get them to give him the original Nightwing costume that had like the flying squirrel suit.
Right.
And DC's zero interest in that.
You should give us so we can throw it up. You should give us your Twitter handle, your Instagram handle, because if beyond the stuff that he posts about comics and everything else, he has a huge following of people that appreciate his knowledge about food. I got to tell you, Robbie just recently started following John on Instagram, and I warned Robbie. I said, dude, before you follow him and you look at his posts, make sure you eat first, because I guarantee you, once you look at it, you're going to be hungry. He didn't listen to me. He said, "Oh, you were right." I started following John, and my God, I immediately had to run out and get something to eat. And I said, "I warned you, bro. I'll get these IG DMs at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning from friends on the West Coast or shift workers. A friend of mine is a longtime follower, is a nurse. You know what I mean? And she's there trying to choke down a salad and a sparkling water, and I've just put up something from that's
sausage
mean,
bolognese
that's
or
just
whatever.
Mean, that's just mean. And she's trying to imagine the salad tastes like the sausage bolognese.
I said, that's like a bowl of garnish.
So, all right. So Dave, commented, speaking of Red Sonja, Gail Simone and Walter Giovanni have a special edition Red Sonja project on Indiegogo right now. That is correct. Thank you.
That is absolutely.
Thank you, Dave, for bringing that up. We appreciate that.
We had Walter on the show.
Yes, we did.
Walter and
that was so cool.
Well, both Walter and Gail we followed each other for years on Twitter. So I reached out to them. Gail is very reticent. Gail is fine on social media. Gail's interviews, I don't think she's 100% on board with doing, Cameo or logging in or whatever. Walter was happy to join us.
That was so cool to have him
Walter,
on the show. It really was.
Well, Gail tells the story, and you can go on YouTube. She posted the video. She tells the story about Walter did all this amazing art for their run, which is, I have to agree. I've read Sonja. Probably I dialed into Red Sonja the late 70s, so I was on fairly early. I would say their run is probably like the seminal work for that character. Walter didn't get to do the covers because, I was not the publisher at that time, so somebody else was doing the covers. So
you'd have to come out of retirement,
with these
buddy.
Kickstarter projects. Walter will be doing the covers. He'll be doing his original cover, and I think he's doing an homage cover of Frank Thorne.
Very cool.
I think Dave could probably.
So Emmy Comics has joined us. Thanks, Emmy.
Emmy.
We appreciate you, buddy. And he says, "LOL. Half the shows I watch are recommendations of places to eat." Then you definitely want to follow John. Okay.
I make the mistake every single week by coming on here without eating first. Every week I make the same mistake.
For me, my day just gets is built in such a way because I come to the office in the morning, take care of all the office stuff that we got to do, and you just don't find time to eat. And the show's 6 o'clock. And,
today Nick has homemade dinner, and I'm sure it's very tasty because it's homemade dinner. A little insider baseball. Nick a lot of times just grabs a sandwich on the go.
Or the pizza delivery guy.
I know where Nick grabs that sandwich. I know the people who are making those sandwiches. So I've been down there and said, "Look, I've seen my friend's sandwich. You guys need to step up your game a little bit."
And let me say this: that John and I actually disagreed about something.
Make the damn chips.
Oh yeah, and then they're supposed to have house-made chips, and if they get busy, Nick gets stuck with macaroni salad or something. That doesn't go with what he gets.
Yeah, I'm crying on the inside for Nick. It's a tragedy. It really is. But All right, let's get to our second comic because we have one again for the viewers for the first half hour. So, Solar Man of the Atom #2, high-end Wando, ultra limited non-trade dress cover, suggested retail of $100, and this also is a $5 claim. So it is not best claim takes it, best offer takes it. It is $5 for the first person who makes the claim. And we also did Shadow Midnight in Moscow #6, high-end Howard Chaykin, non-trade cover, non-trade dress cover, ultra limited digital cover with a suggested retail of $75, and that is also one of our $5 claim comics of the evening. So
awesome
first
cover.
person to claim it, gets it for $5. So
This is like when Solar always is a balance between superhero comic and psychedelic. Solar gets trippy, it just does. And this is, I think, the Joe Bennett run. Frank Barbieri wrote this, and it very much channels that late 60s gold key Solar where,
right.
He's talking to himself and he creates himself. A lot of that stuff, no disrespect intended, but a lot of that stuff I think you saw mimicked in Watchmen with Dr. Manhattan.
Okay.
There's very much a similarity there.
Yeah, I can see
at
what,
the end. In the beginning, Solar Man of the Atom started as just a superhero with atomic powers because it was the atomic age. Near the end of Gold Key's run with Solar, and I think somebody else might have done Solar too, maybe Valiant. They went like real trippy. Like when he talks to himself, another self appears, and he talks to himself from like 10 minutes ago and 10 minutes from now, and they sort of kind of touch into this here, where he's creates different versions of himself.
Right.
I tell people all the time, Solar is like Nexus. Nexus is one of those comics, one of those first real successful independent comics from like the late 80s. And, it's a little bit of a, you got to sit down and read it seriously. I mean, some books you can just kind of, page through or whatever while you're listening to music. Something like Solar, it's, you probably want to pay attention to it.
Right. So just to talk about the contest, so on AR's show yesterday, we had the contest like we always do, and we're going to do it again here tonight. If you post something in the chat, you will automatically enter into the contest, and we will do the drawing on let's see. So
AR show or
I'm so confused. What day is it? Wednesday. Oh,
it's Wednesday.
That's right. So
you'll announce the winner on AR show the next time you're on. Is that right?
Yeah. So we'll announce the winner on Tuesday.
You might want to ask AR because it's his show.
I'm so confused, AR. We've been doing this back and forth.
Work it out.
So I'm not even sure, which cycle we're on. So we did. Everybody that commented in the chat on, hey Lefty, what's up, buddy?
So from last Wednesday's show, when we did that contest, I don't think we said which book it was going to be, but I do have that winner. I put that in the private chat.
Okay.
And then we have our separate contest that runs on Tuesday's show.
Right. And we're supposed to announce the winner tonight, right?
No, we can do that next Tuesday.
Oh, well, next Tuesday. Okay. Gotcha. All right.
You just can't wait to give this stuff away. You can't even.
I know, because it makes Nick sweat. It's so much fun, So I'm like, I just go to the warehouse and, hey guys, I need another $50 book or more. What do you got? They go,
Nick's gonna go to the vault. What is this empty room?
They're like, are you sure? They're like, well, are you sure you want to use this one? I'm like, yeah, give it to me.
About that.
I said, if John comes back here, don't give it to him. So, so at the second break, when we come back, we'll announce the winner for the last show, whichever one that was. I'm so lost in the cycle now. AR's got control of it, so he'll run his randomizer. Yes, AR, we are still working on the big Price is Right wheel. I've requested it multiple times, but so far it hasn't arrived yet. I'm just assuming it's caught up in the supply chain issues that we've had. Okay. And it's sitting on a cargo ship somewhere in LA, but hopefully we'll have the big wheel soon. But so at the top of the hour, when we come back from second break, AR will run the randomizer, and I've got two $50 books here. So it's no problem. We'll just pick one and we'll throw it up there, and that'll be the winner. And then anybody that enters the chat tonight, we'll announce the winner next Wednesday, right?
Yeah, we can do that.
There you go. So what should we do next, guys? We have something really, really cool
Let AR
tonight.
pick a book.
AR, pick a book.
Yeah, what do we want to do?
All right, only because we talk about it all the time with Ken Hazer's artwork. I know I see some cool ones down there.
Yeah.
I just want to say I actually reached out to him on Instagram.
Did you?
I had to let him know his artwork is fantastic. I told him I'm always on this show with you guys. We always have Ken Hazer artwork, and he actually just responded. He followed me too, so that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
It was just basically like a like awesome thank you. That's really cool. Hopefully, maybe he'll pop in one of these.
Yeah, I mean, John and I have talked about it. I mean, it would be fantastic to have him here with us. So we're working on it.
I'd love to do a segment where like the whole board is Ken.
That would be cool.
Like if Ken wants to do like his 10 favorite remarks or something.
I know that some remarks came in today from Ken. I don't know which ones, but
I know which one didn't come in.
Which one didn't come in? Green Hornet?
Like Green Hornet Kato black blank variant done in green metallic.
Well, it sounds like AR and Ken are buddies. Maybe you should reach out to AR there. Maybe
all right, it was just one back and forth conversation.
He appreciates the love. I like that. I messaged him when I grabbed the alien sketch,
right,
and he was like, "Oh, he thought that was cool because he didn't do a lot of chestburster stuff."
That was super. Yeah, and I wasn't on that show, and it was so funny because when John got it, he sent me an image and sent me an instant a direct message. I'm like, you took the book, didn't you, bro? You took the book.
Like I said, I love all his work. That one in particular really sort of resonated with me. So, and
we have TM Nerdy in the house. TM, thanks for joining us, buddy. Station. So can always tell which ones are guys that watch Robbie's channel
because and come they know stuff.
Well, that's part of it. But they all use the tagline Station. Nice. So it's an identifier for me. But let's see. It's 6:28, so we have to go to our first break. So we'll come back with something really special. We have Gunslinger Spawn #1 variant incentive cover. One of 250 signed by Todd McFarlane. So when we come back from the first break, we're going to go ahead and start off with that. That's been super hot. I know that. And you'll love to hear both your opinions on it. So we'll be back in a few minutes.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Hey, I'm Garrett Gunn. You might know me from Good Boy, Warcorns, Franklin and Ghost, and you're watching The Experience.
And we're back.
We are back.
All right. So I promised that we would start this half hour with something very special.
Stories about food and gossip.
I'm really, really hungry. So We have Gunslinger Spawn #1 variant incentive cover, one of 250. All right, so retailer had to order 250 copies to get
That's
one of
so
these.
cool.
Signed by Todd McFarlane, and we only have one available tonight. It is $799.99. Now, I'm sure that we'll be able to do a 30-day plan.
Yeah, I
if
was
it's
going
something
to
you're
say
interested
that,
in.
especially you coming right up on the holidays or whatever. They'll probably be, email for terms, as they used to say.
So,
I'm sure they'll be
yes,
part down,
Right.
30 days, 15 days, whatever.
So this is pretty neat. I mean, the fact that they worked in conjunction with CGC. So the certificate of authenticity that comes with it, you can send to CGC to get graded, slabbed, and they will slab it, grade it, and put the yellow tag on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Where usually the signature series for CGC has to be something that they witness, and there's all this paperwork. So if you get this comic and you decide that's the direction you want to go, let's see. Ronald says I fell off my chair. What did I miss?
What did I miss?
Did she shoot you again with the taser? Tell her to stop.
Todd was in Chicago a few years ago, and someone asked him about a signed book, and his response was, just blurts it right out. He's like, if I said I signed the book, then I signed the book. And everybody
John's bleeping himself.
I am bleeping myself out. But, if you've ever seen Todd McFarlane in anything, that's exactly who he is.
And listen, check it out, online. Check it out, see what it's going for. But I'm telling you, this book is super hot right now. Let's see. Dave says retailers are okay to sell these because the COA CGC form is based on 30 days from receipt. They have to get it moving right away. Mm-hmm. That's exactly correct. I know that the market is very, very hot for it. Just like when King Spawn came out, I think they did exactly the same thing. So you have that certificate. If you decide to slab it, you do have to get it in very, very quickly.
And you remember what happened with the price too? It was available at one price, and then you blinked, and it was like $1,000 book.
Oh yeah.
And I'm reasonably certain this book at $7.99 is probably a good deal, relatively speaking.
At this moment.
Because I can see this easily being $1,000 book by the beginning of the new year.
So Ronald says she heard Todd McFarlane's name and threw a shoe at me.
Oh, no.
Ronald, you should go back and tell her that you are watching the Bible study video and scream out hallelujah every now and again like you did the last time.
Now I'm getting an idea of Todd McFarlane leaving a Bible study, and I would pay good money to be part of that.
So AR, what are you hearing on the street?
My thought on this cover, I didn't pick up Gunslinger today. My shop did have it. I was actually talking to Nick right before the live stream. My shop didn't get all of their books last night, but they called me right before they opened today, and they were like, hey, we got everything in. So come on through, because it's like a 30-minute drive. And I told them yesterday that if they don't have all the books, I'm not going to go up there just for a couple. Right. So they did get Gunslinger. I didn't pick it up. For me, I picked up King Spawn 1 and 2, but I didn't want to really dive into that because I didn't read any of the old Spawn. So I didn't want to just kind of hop onto this new series without a lot of back knowledge. My thing with this cover is it's awesome. It's totally awesome. And I get why the price for the original, the King Spawn was so expensive. But with all these new series, if they're going to be making a super exclusive like this, can it truly hold value? Because then it's going to turn into, I have King Spawn 1. Now they brought in Gunslinger. Then they're going to be bringing in the other Spawn 1 as well. So if they have all of these super exclusives for this, do you think it's going to stay that high of a book? Or do you think it's going to level out a little bit because now it's not just King Spawn? Now you've got Gunslinger, you've got whatever the other couple series are too. So that's just a take on it.
Every time in my life I've sort of thought Spawn has peaked. I know exactly what you're saying. Every time in my life I've thought like Spawn has peaked, I was mistaken.
It keeps coming back.
It's just one of these things where I'm like, okay, Spawn was really cool for the 90s, or Spawn was really cool on HBO, and then it keeps coming back, and I keep seeing back issue prices just explode, at least locally. Right. I mean, I don't know if there's a shop in Texas maybe selling Spawn in dollar bins, but I know if I jump into a store in Philadelphia or Baltimore or somewhere in North Jersey, Spawn back issues are insanely expensive. They don't really seem, I hate to use the term bulletproof, but there are certain characters, kind of like Wolverine, you know what I mean? If there's a back issue and it's X, not a lot of movement on it, at least not a downward movement.
Right. I mean, I understand what AR is saying, but I think I think you have two different factors that are at play here, maybe even three. I think number one, as you say, every time you think Spawn has peaked, it comes back, with a vengeance.
Yeah, I mean, this is just anecdotal. I mean, I haven't done, AR tends to do like more research and stuff like that. But to my seeing, just, like anecdotally, I never see Spawn, die. I never see the prices level out. I'm always, I know people that are waiting for prices to flatline so they can fill in back issues and stuff. It just doesn't happen.
Now, I agree with that too. I don't really know much about Spawn. I really don't. I just look at it as a very exclusive cover. It's a 1 in 250. It looks like they have a total of 1,100, almost 1,200 of them. But at that same rate, imagine that, what was it for Berserker? Berserker from Boom Studios, or Berserk, I think it's called. The 1 in 1,000 signed by Keanu Reeves. Now imagine they came out with another 1 in 1,000, kind of the same situation. Would that kind of take the exclusivity away from it? So now the price is going to, come down a little bit because that first 1 in 1,000 that everyone was spending a ton of money on, well, now they can kind of get another one. It's just a different variant of it. Kind of where I'm going with it. It's still very exclusive. But
I think another factor would be it depends on if we get another kind of Spawn project. And by that, I mean video game, animated series,
full-blown
movie.
I think something is coming, isn't there? A show, I believe.
You know what? These things are constantly in the wind. I had my hopes dashed before, so I don't buy into the rumor until I start seeing like Instagram photos from the set, or you know what I mean, like a date has been released, or one of the subscription services says, January 2022 Spawn. Once they announce it, then I'm good to go. My understanding is that there will be another Spawn show, which
it looks like it's a movie.
The logic is held, at least for as long as we've done this, 6-7 months. A show announcement pushes all the back issue prices up.
Well, here's another factor. I mean, to consider. Have we seen anything really devalue? Just forget about Spawn. I mean, just you pick any title you want. I mean, we saw it in the 90s, okay, where things where you had a lot of speculation. Now you get a different feel because in the 90s you didn't have the big studios supporting it by creating more demand by throwing out a new movie or a new TV show or whatever.
FOMO in the comic book industry. Yeah. You were afraid as a comic book collector. You didn't want to walk in the store and have that stain of, no, I didn't pick up Bloody Black Death Strike Nutstream #1 from Image or something. Like you didn't want to. You would be embarrassed to admit that because someone would talk about how they bought a car by reselling like 5 copies of the show, and you're like, wow, you know what I mean? Well, I think you're right. We're in an era now where whatever studio it is, Disney, Comcast, I don't care who it is, they decide this is our thing.
Well, here's a major point, I think, why it's different than, say, the 90s. Because in the 90s, you had all of these trading card dealers that were getting into the comics, okay?
Yes.
And that was primarily because of the death of Superman, and then Batman and getting his back broken by Bane. And there was all this artificial kind of hoopla surrounding comics as a whole. So I remember specifically because I was working for a company and the entire comic book industry, everybody's telling me, Turok #1, it's got this, I think it was like some sort of kind of, it wasn't a lenticular cover, but it had a hologram sort of something or another on the cover. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be it.
Laser etched, die cut, chromium.
Right. And it was going to be fantastic. It's going to be great. And everybody's going to go after it. It's going to be the book of the year. And all of these trading card dealers who didn't really understand the comics industry, they said, oh, you know what? I can get this from a distributor. I can get it from Diamond Comics in Capital City when they were still around.
Oh, yeah.
And the next thing you know, there were 1.2 million pre-orders for this thing. Yep. Okay. And when it came immediately, even before it was released, the price was just plummeting because all these trading card guys were seeing that, oh my gosh, I ordered all these copies and it's going to die and I got to get rid of it.
Continuity trading cards.
and they went ahead and they started dumping it. And when they really started to panic because they're looking at cash flow, they really started dumping it and it just cratered. And then I remember reading an article later, it might have even been in Diamond Previews, that essentially there were probably less than 100,000 Turok readers, but there were 1.2 million copies that were pre-ordered.
I remember that they were selling it was like every Turok reader had bought 10 copies.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember the comment. I think it was Wizard or something. They're like, did every one of
maybe
you
it was
guys?
Wizard that I read it in. Yeah.
Everybody bought 10 copies, and I'm like, well, I know I didn't.
And the difference that I see now is the people that are, the appreciation of and the price level of the titles that we're seeing now is due to real collectors. Now, maybe, like our buddy Ron, he's an avid collector, but he doesn't actually read. But he is a collector of...
He's trying. He sounds out the words.
He's, when you get shocked every other hour,
pictures.
When you get tased every other hour, sometimes it has an effect.
So you think it's a shock collar, like on Star Trek?
Don't say that. If his wife hears it, next thing you know, she's gonna buy him a shock collar. Don't say that. But whether it be due to the movies, there is a larger core of collectors out there, and they're the ones that I think they're really driving the price as opposed to what was happening in the 90s. So that's a real difference. And right now, it's crazy how when you look at major Wall Street firms investing in CGC, PSA, and jumping into collectibles as a whole, that tends to translate to me that they recognize that there is something there long term. And they want to be a piece of it. They want a piece of it.
We have comic collectors dialed into creators more than they were previously, I think. Todd McFarlane was like a hot artist when we were young. Todd McFarlane is like a legend now. I put him on that level with like Dave Stevens, right? He made everything look good, but he got the one character.
Right.
And, that one character kind of made his bones, so to speak. And I think you had that with Spawn. McFarlane did Spider-Man. He did a bunch of stuff. Batman looked great. Everybody loved the style. It was like the thing. And then he decides to drop Spawn. And it's been 30 years of Spawn?
I think so.
It's been a bit. You know what I mean? Like he says, Spawn paid for his hockey team. Spawn paid for his airplane. Spawn paid for his vacation house. I mean, Todd McFarlane's very kind of blunt in interviews about that. He's like, Spawn has bought me way more stuff than Marvel or DC ever did.
No,
hey, fellas. Ron sent us an amazing piece of art that's related to this, and I wanted to show it, but I didn't want you guys to miss it.
No, absolutely. We will love
to
see anything that Ron said. Oh, wow. Look at that, guys.
Nice.
Ron, that's are a collector. Does your wife know you have that? You're suggesting shock collars. Okay. I'm Ron's friend. You're not helping Ron.
Even start subtly with like a Black Lightning shirt, right? Just like as a reminder.
You can't watch Shazam ever again.
No, don't say the word.
It'll make him twitch. But yeah, I think that there's something different here. And I think that prices tend to hold because
I totally get where AR's coming from.
I do too.
I think, let's put it this way, there's also like a safety zone, right? Like I think $7.99 is a relatively fair and safe price. When someone a couple years from now asks like $2,000 for this, you're gonna be like, come on, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think there's like a zone of I'll say realism or relative value realism. And then you just find someone at a trade show and they're looking to get their transmission replaced with your book. And you're like, no, I'm good, man. I'm good.
I agree. I think I may have made a bad comparison using, the new series Berserk to Spawn, because obviously Spawn's been around. Spawn hasn't gone away. They keep making more and more Spawn. So this is just an insanely cool collection piece for that.
Like I said, I've been wrong multiple times. I've written that off. I'm like, oh, come on, man. That's from the 90s. Does anyone really care about that anymore?
And just like that.
People do when there's a new Spawn and there's medieval Spawn or,
yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
So for all we know, just to counter literally what I just said, when I thought, maybe with all of these extra Spawn covers like that, like another 250 exclusive, like you said, a medieval Spawn, maybe it's going to turn into a massive set of it. So someone's out there like, I have the entire collection.
Right.
This is huge now. Maybe the next one.
I had a little bit of that thought myself. Someone's going to put together, you see people do that. They get like the big picture frame, right? And then
Yep.
they'll have the whole sort of, cowboy Spawn, teen Spawn, like who knows whatever's coming, right?
Right.
Steampunk Spawn, like whatever they decide to do, right? And they'll have them all in one big collection.
So I got to read out what Ron posted. I just told my wife I am attending an AA meeting. She yelled out that she knows I don't drink. I told her at this point I'm willing to learn.
I'm willing to learn.
So I see where AR is coming from. I just believe the essential difference between now and the 90s is that it isn't speculators and distributors that are trying to chase after this. It's true.
It's more organic.
It's a lot of people.
All he needs is money to get into Baltimore Comic-Con. Having a Spawn incentive is more important, but I may be biased.
I might be biased.
Well, Nick's trying to. I see Nick. You're trying to claim his gunslinger Spawn art.
That's nice.
Well, it was on the screen.
It was. I know, right? Hey, if it's on the show, it
What
goes.
was the movie with Tom Cruise where he wanted to be a millionaire? His uncle owned a bar, Cocktails.
Cocktail.
Yeah.
And the uncle, the guy had $1 still on the bar. The bartender took it. He's like, "It's on the bar. It's a tip." He's like, "No, that's my change. It's on the bar. It's a tip.
It's on the bar.
It's on the screen. It's
on
for
the
sale."
screen. It's for sale.
Now Ron's never going to send us anything to put on
I
the
know,
screen
right?
again.
We'll get it.
Maybe Ron and Nick could do a swap.
Well, that's up to Nikki. That ain't up to us.
Hey, you know what? We talk about this all the time. Real quick before we get to a book, Nick is always looking for collections. I just thought this was a cool thing. Like, all jokes aside, Nick is looking to buy collections. If you have something you want to sell or whatever, not only does Nick buy collections, but Nick helps people out with like a finder's fee. He's not, he's willing to throw someone a few bucks to get a tip on a. You know what I mean? This is sort of, we don't talk about it much, but I just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nick's always looking for bucks.
At least a 10% referral fee.
At least a 10%
You just heard it. Nick
referral
said
fee.
a 10% referral fee. So you think about that, $70,000-$80,000 set of comics. That's a nice piece of change for making a few calls and emails.
So
yeah, just to make just to contact someone that easy.
Right. So segueing into, just to remind everybody that we have a lot of vintage X-Men available tonight. So the first one,
the back end of the show is going to be backloaded. We might be going a little bit fast, but I want to try to make sure everybody gets to see the vintage particularly the vintage X-Men stuff. And people this is another thing we were talking about, Bulletproof. I don't know if I've ever seen this kind of sweet spot Claremont Byrne run. I never see this stuff in dollar bins.
Yeah,
I never
you're
see
not going
this stuff
to
in anywhere close to not market or above price, unless you're bundling it. You're doing like a 7-8-9 book deal. Then you might get a little bit of a break. But
you don't even see screwed up copies in the $20 box.
Yeah, no, you really
I've never
don't.
even seen that. Like, you go through somebody's $20 box, and you may get some Avengers or some Spider-Mans.
Yeah,
and you might even get a little bit of the reprint X-Men, like between 67 and 92.
Yeah.
But I have never seen Byrne.
So
yeah, it's just not there. And if Nick hasn't seen it, he's probably seen a zillion more boxes than I have.
So
even
go ahead, AR.
I was gonna say, even the last Oklahoma City con that I went to, just a $5 bin, there was only a couple uncannies in there, a little bit lower number, like higher 100s.
Right.
I mean, they were, honest to God, probably a 1 to a 2. They may not even had a grade because of how much damage was to the cover. The one, I think it was in 160s. It had a chunk of the cover missing, and it was still in the $5 bin. And the book was basically destroyed. Still $5.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we'll start one off. We have X-Men number 126 with a presumed grade of 8.5, and we have one available tonight at $80. So anybody's trying to fill in that collection, we have it tonight. Again, it's a presumed grade of 8.5, and we tend to be very conservative with that. It's always more important to over deliver.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much conjectural. I mean, there's no guarantee. No. However, I will say this about the price. Even if the book did come back a little bit lower than our projected, our estimate, right? Let's say we think it's an 8.5, comes back as an 8. We'll just put it out there, right? The price you're getting this book for is still a value.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? Because I've been to these shows. I've seen what these things. I'm sure AR has. I'm sure Kyle has. I'm sure everybody's seen it. It's hard to find books from this era in good condition at a price that makes you jump right away.
Right.
You know what I mean? Unless unless you're a doctor or a lawyer or something with 7-figure income, most of the people I know, that's not them.
No, I agree with you.
They're looking for the best for what they can afford, and I think that's sort of what these are.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. So just remind everybody, when we come back from the next break, we're going to announce the winner to the contest. AR will run his handy dandy randomizer minus the Price is Right wheel. We'll announce that winner and the comic that they win when we come back from our next break. But let's see, Emmy Comics says, and those prices aren't coming down anytime soon. I would agree.
Yeah, they're really not. They're just...
I would totally agree. So before we go to break, something we always have, and it's a set that's been real popular on the show. We have the Dynamite 10-pack reader set.
Oh, I love these.
So it is 10 random Dynamite titles with a cover price of $3.99 or higher. So a suggested retail of $40, and we're selling it for $5 tonight. Again, it's kind of giving back to our viewers. And if you're beginning your comic collection, it gives you a huge head start. And at 50 cents a copy, how can you lose?
And if you want the books to be worthless, I'll even sign one of them for you.
No.
That adds value. That doesn't make it worthless.
You read them and you get into the characters, and then you'll get to sit in the front row at the Dynamite panel at Comic-Con, and I can sit in the back row and just enjoy the show.
Stop. You want to sit in the front row. You want to be on the panel.
I should be sitting on the panel at this point. I'm done sitting on the
Nobody's buying that for $1.
I'm done sitting in the audience.
So and if you buy more than one 10-pack, we'll do our best to not duplicate. But if you buy, several, there may be some duplication, but we work real hard to make sure.
I've seen some of the sets we've sold had like really cool chase books, and stuff like that. So I think that, maybe I'm biased because I love Dynamite, but I don't know if you get a better sort of sampler pack at that price.
Well, you're talking about 50 cents a copy, so
yeah.
That's we really can't do it any better than that. Otherwise, we're losing money. So that will be available throughout the show tonight. And let's see, what do we want to do next? Do you want to pick one? You pick one.
Why don't we do? Let's see. Here we go. Dejah Thoris, Warlord of Mars.
Now I gotta find it though.
Now I have to find it. Dejah Thoris is one of those characters, and I myself am guilty of this. When I talk about the pantheon of Dynamite female characters, I sometimes overlook Dejah Thoris. Dejah Thoris is like a Hall of Fame pulp character. I was on a comics podcast a couple of years ago, and I made the statement, you can make the argument that this started as John Carter of Mars. And I think Dejah Thoris has sort of almost eclipsed John Carter. Not counting the Disney movie, some people loved it, some people hated it. But if you look at the bulk of comics, John Carter's appearances previously versus what Dejah Thoris has done the last 15-ish years in Dynamite, you can very much make the argument that Dejah Thoris is like the central figure.
Right.
She's now essentially the warlord of Mars. And and John Carter is sort of the touchstone character, so the legacy character or whatever.
Right.
This book, only 25 have been printed.
So super rare, and this is our first best offer takes the book of the night. So Warlord of Mars, Dejah Thoris, number 20, high end, Paul Renaud, black and white, ultra limited cover, suggested retail of $100, and the offers will start at $10. And at the end of the night, $7.55, best offer takes it. So what do we want to do next? Are we almost no?
Are we break time?
Yeah, we have time for one more before we got to hit the break.
A slabs book.
Let's do a slab book.
How about
you got some cool ones tonight too.
What's that?
You got some really cool slabs tonight too.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we have cool slabs. We'll get to Ken Hazer stuff a little bit later.
Absolutely. All right. So Justice League Rebirth, number 1, first printing. VDF or variant CGC graded 9.8, suggested retail of $89.99. It is our 5-star book, 5-star $50 book, and it is guaranteed 9.8. Obviously,
because there's just one, right?
Yeah, we only have one, available tonight. And Dave says at Nick Barucci, "Oh Nick, Barucci signature. Looking that up on Key Collector now. Make sure you let us know what the price is if you find it. We'd love to know.
No, I need Nick's signature on my submission form for a Green Hornet story. That's what I need Nick's signature on.
I need Nick's signature on the bottom of a check.
Hey guys, we weren't able to get it on Twitter for some reason, but Mandy bought both $5 early bird specials.
Cool.
So everybody, remember, you got to tune in at the top of the hour.
Okay.
Show the 2 books that we sold at $5 each, and what a great value they were.
It was Mandy, right?
Yeah.
All right. I will make the note here. All right, Mandy, watching on Twitter. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it, and really, really happy you got in on the early bird specials. That's what we're going to call it.
Yeah, I mean, we
just
have
makes me
people that
hungry
watch
whenever I
on
say that.
platforms and they can't kind of get into the chat, which is why a lot of times if you see me on my phone, no, I'm not checking a dinner reservation. I'm sort of trying to interact with people, who are watching maybe on Twitter. I don't know, maybe they'll log into Instagram or something and they can't. You know what I mean? We are on all the platforms. That's why we always ask people, like, share, subscribe, retweet.
If you are watching on Twitter, I mean, you can, it's great that Nick was watching Twitter. But if you're not getting a response, feel free to email me at rex.wang@dynamite.com. Believe it or not, I'm using my own laptop here. With too small screen. That's why every now and again you'll see me lean over to look at the comments because my bifocals, I think I need to get a new prescription. I'll see it flash across the screen, and you can claim it that way if necessary if you're watching on Twitter. But you can also check us out on YouTube, on Facebook. Yeah. And we can see the chat posts from there. We know
people have stuff to do. We always appreciate. We appreciate AR joins us.
Well, I appreciate you guys letting me come on.
Research for his show, so this time is, I just kind of stumbled in from
saying?
Wawa.
What are you saying? We don't do research?
No, I don't do any research.
He's too busy making sandwiches that I never get to eat. Yes, that's going to be a recurring thing, John.
The Dynamite Kitchen Galley needs to be remodeled. Speak to the publisher.
Hey, listen, I'll move that hot plate for you.
I'll move the hot plate.
So I think it's time for our next break. So we'll be back in a few minutes. And when we come back, we will announce the winner of the contest.
Sweet. Did we give people a prize?
Hi, I'm Brian Haberlin, and I want to tell you a little bit about my new book coming out in October, Hellcop. Hellcop's been rattling around my brain for decades. When I launched Avalon Comics with Whilce Portacio, Hellcop was one of the initial launches, but I was wearing a lot of hats back then. So I gave over the reins to Joe Casey and Gilbert Monsanto, and they did a great job, but it was my baby. If you look at sketchbooks I've done over the years, there's Hellcops throughout. There are pages started, stories started. So let me tell you a little bit about the story. Discovering a whole new world that had only previously existed in our collective imaginations. A tale of adventure, betrayal. Hell's just another place, another planet with native creatures most on Earth would call monsters. And humans that have been there as long as they've been here. Doctors, lawyers, maybe too many lawyers. Please join me in October for the release of Hellcop and the Hellcop 3D Halloween special. Hey, I want to say thanks for watching, and I really hope you can go and ask your retailer to pick up Hellcop for October. There's going to be a 3D version with 3D glasses and the whole 9 yards, and the regular version, of course, too, with some pretty fun covers. Thank you for your attention, your support, as always, and hope you guys have a great day.
Hey, I'm Joe Pruitt. I'm the publisher and /CEO of Aftershock Comics. you're watching the experience.
All right, John went to make me a sandwich, so it should be excellent. I'll show you a picture as soon as I receive it. Adam, thanks for joining us. Send me an email, rex.wang@dynamite.com, and I will check in the morning with our accounting department and see what happened there. My apologies if you haven't received the book. We'll definitely track it for you and figure out what happened. But now it's time for the contest. So, John, where's my sandwich?
I was getting my vodka refill.
I thought you went to make me a sandwich. I thought that's why you got up. So,
hey, real quick, fellas, I was doing some work during the break. If you're watching on Twitter, your comments are only visible to you. It's a known bug with the new Twitter live streaming, unless you're live streaming directly from Twitter. So if you could comment on Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube in the meantime until that is fixed. Thank you.
Cool. So, AR, if you would, please run your handy dandy randomizer.
All right. Only super quick. So during the commercial break, one of the commercials that came up was for Hellcop issue number 1. That's a new series that came out this week. It was awesome. It really was. So if you guys were hanging out, you saw the commercial, and it looked cool to you. I mean, the writer, he's obviously all about it. He said he's been working on it for a long time. It was worth the wait. It was a fantastic first issue. Definitely drew me in. I just had to say that. It really was that good.
That is absolutely awesome. So, if you will.
Right. Now, I ran it. So I ran it last week, right after the stream ended. Everyone's names that was there, I put it right in. So hopefully you're still in here. I actually did see you earlier. The winner from last week's giveaway is M_E Comics.
ME Comics. Congratulations, my friend.
So,
and hold on. Let me just write it down. ME Comics. Emmy, I'm not sure if you've ever filled out a submission form, but if you would, if you haven't, please do so, as we'll be able to know where to ship it to. And if you have already, we'll be able to find it. And you have won. Let's see here. You have won Army of Darkness Army of Darkness so 1979 cool. number 1 non-trade dress cover. And we'll get this out to you right away, my friend. Congratulations.
That's from my pile. What are you doing?
I'm sorry. Was that your pile that I picked
That's
up
such
from?
a cool cover.
Oops.
I love that series.
Should have brought me that sandwich like I asked.
My pile is in the back, past the break room, in that big room.
That's speaking of
sandwich like I asked.
Right?
That's speaking of Rodney Barnes too, because Rodney Barnes is on that series. He just came out with a new series this week as well. I believe it's Nita Hawes Nightmare Blog, issue 1. Another really good issue. Like 2 Halloween type series right now. But for that Nita Hawes series, the Nightmare Blog, it kind of ties in with Philadelphia, also from Image, if you're reading that. So it's Rodney Barnes with Jason Sean Alexander. They're both on this series. They're both on Philadelphia, and they make references to both. So I don't know what they're really doing with that. If you keep up with AWA, some of their writers are kind of making a reborn world. Like a lot of these series are focusing on the reborns. Right. Maybe they're making their own little Philadelphia, Rodney Barnes, Jason Sean Alexander world. That would be awesome.
Philadelphia verse.
Maybe.
So Ryan's joined us. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. And he has a question. Any updates on the Stray Dogs sketchbooks by Ken Hazer? I'm not sure which updates you're looking for there. But let us know, Ryan. Put it in the chat, and if we have the answer, we'll give it to you.
Not to pass the buck or not address that question.
Right.
That literally sounds like a question like Nick would ask Ken.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's like that level of question. You know what I mean? Like I don't.
Well, Nick's watching, so at some point Nick may chime in to the chat board to answer the question. So, what do you guys want to do next? Should we do? Let's see.
I would do a remark.
Slab book.
Let's do another slab book.
Really good. What is the slab book that has Spectre Master of the Occult in front of it? Is that some kind of pack?
That is a pack, actually. So that will be. Let me find the pack on my list.
Spectre, by the way, is a great book.
That's crazy though. There's a few comments saying that Hellcop and Nightmare Blog got pushed back from Image till next week. My shop got the books, but they didn't get. I don't think they got.
About half the stores were missing their books this week from Image. So they asked them to hold Hellcop. They asked them to hold Gunslinger Spawn, and they asked them to hold Nightmare Blog. But not every shop did because not every shop got the email. So it's no big deal. They were just asking for a favor. Stores could sell them if they wanted.
I know my shop got them. I don't
My
think
store chose to hold them, and I was really bummed.
They're definitely worth. I mean, I can't speak for Gunslinger, but definitely Hellcop and Nightmare Blog. I was really impressed.
So yeah, you were right. This is actually a set. It's the Comic Collectors Mega Mix set. So what's included is one CGC Wonder Woman Rebirth #1, graded a 9.6 guaranteed. One signed Dr. Spectre #1, latent cover signed by Mark Waid, and one Remark Champions #1 with the Dynamic Forces exclusive black and white cover signed in Remark with a Spider-Man head sketch by Ken Hazer. So that is one of our 5-star and $50 sets of the evening. So all three for $50.
That's probably the best deal I think we have tonight.
I think it is probably. Except for the $5 books.
I
was going to say, other than
Mark
that.
Waid's signature. Spectre is a book I always, I say this about a lot of Dynamite books, but a lot of times I see in chat rooms and Facebook and Twitter, people almost sort of short selling Dynamite, like, oh, they only do books, like cheesecake books with women or whatever. And this is always weeks when Walking Dead and James Bond come out. And,
right.
Another time somebody posted that somewhere. There's a week Peter Cannon and Spectre come out, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Dynamite, I think the truth is for a lot of comic fans, especially guys in our generation, there's a disproportionate number of male characters. Now I think you've got Dynamite very contemporary with kind of an even number of characters. Right. You know what I mean? You've got a fair amount of female characters, very strong, kind of very legacy characters redeveloped. And then
Ron is claiming the Mega Mix set.
That's a great
That's a soft deal.
You got it, Ron. We got you down, buddy.
There's quite a lot of, and you know what? There's also a marketplace issue too. It pains me to say this. Obviously, if you watch the show, I love the Green Hornet and Kato. If Betty Page sells,
I was just going to say, really?
I know, honestly, if Betty Page sells more copies of Green Hornet and Kato, then yeah, it's going to have a higher visibility factor.
You know what's funny? Sometimes I review the show, but because I'm in office with other people and I don't want to disturb them during the day, I'll turn the closed caption on. We should have a contest. How many times does John say Green Hornet in a 2-hour show?
The closest person gets a free book.
Yes. We should do that. We should
out of
definitely
his
do
personal
that.
pile.
Hornet book?
Yes, that would be perfect. That would be a great idea.
Hornet book signed by John.
Ooh.
I'm not going to ruin somebody's Green Hornet book.
We'll send you 2.
We'll send you 2. I was going to say send 2.
I was going to say the signature adds the value.
Say that again, AR.
The signature adds the value, just like Nick Barushi's does.
There you go. We'll send you a couple tomorrow, buddy.
I wanted to throw this out here because it's almost a little bit of a recurring theme with Dynamite. People can say whatever they want. I mean, it's social media. Have a blast. I probably spend way too much time on there anyway that I'm retired, particularly in comics chat rooms. But there seems to be this thing of, well, Dynamite just does girl books, and they don't mean it in the positive, empowering way. They mean it in the cheesy pinup way. And I'm like, let's be clear. Dynamite has about a 50-50 ratio. We start going deep into Spectre and Turok, Solar. You know what I mean? Things. Right. You know what I mean? They're this, especially this time of year, right? Most of the horror characters are female. So right now, if you're looking at September and October, what's being solicited, yeah, of course it's Betty Page, Kristen the Banshee, Vampirella, Red Sonja. I mean, and literally we're still doing James Bond, Army of Darkness. So I get what people are saying, and maybe even it appears that way.
Right.
At a certain time of year, depending on how you look at it, depending when you look at it, but it's just really not accurate. It's really not accurate at all to say that. Not to mention, if you look at superpowers, which gets done every year or two by Dynamite, at least
Right.
3/4 of those characters are male.
Right.
There's a few strong female characters in Superpowers, but because it's based on Golden Age characters, most of those characters are male. So, you know what I mean? I would tell people, I would say, I see what you're saying, but take a beat and then just look at it.
Right.
You know, like hit the solicitations for the last 5 years and see what's there.
So you know what, AR? Why don't you pick a book next?
I've been looking at those remarks all night. You had them on my channel last night, and I was eyeing them up, and I see them again. So we gotta show some of those off.
Let's do one.
Let's do one.
Let's do one. Should we do?
So cool too.
You want Star Wars?
Let's do Star Wars.
Let's
Yeah.
do Star Wars.
Why
We're
not?
looking right at it.
Yeah, we're looking right at it. It's up. So
Yeah.
Star Wars #1 remarked edition by Ken Hazer with a R2D2 sketch. Now, I was told by one of the guys in the back, and I'm not sure about this, and I don't remember any of the names, but apparently there's a band out there, and this was a compilation that Ken Hazer did, and I'm not really sure who the band is, but I think the band member that you see on there with the R2D2 hat on is, I want to say, it was told to me it was T2 or something like that. And they're a band that's online. But anyway, as you can see, we talk about this all the time. Ken Hazer is unbelievable. You ask him to do anything on a cover, and he's going to be able to do it for you. So we have this tonight. Suggested retail of $89.99. We're doing it for $44 for the 44th anniversary. Yeah, that was Nick. He loves those significant numbers.
Let's do an adorable price of $19.77.
All right, so Nick has decided on the fly. We're changing the price
change.
from 19. We should have like a price change.
There should be a price change alert.
Yeah, exactly right. $44 to $19.77. To the first person that claims it, you can have it. Wow, it's just slashing prices like crazy Eddie. And you got to be old enough to know who I'm talking about. So Star Wars #1 remarked edition by Ken Hazer with an R2D2 sketch for $19.77. And band Gorillas. That's it. That's it. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you very much. Marcus, thank you, Gorillas. I knew, I was talking to one of my colleagues here, and he was explaining it to me, and I guess I'm too old. And I said, well, I don't know who it is. Will anybody know? He goes, I guarantee you, somebody that watches will know. And there you go. Two people. I can't wait to tell them tomorrow morning. You were right. I was wrong. Gorillas. That's it. So we have it tonight for $19.77. Beyond the fact that it's Star Wars, beyond the fact it's R2D2, beyond the fact that it's remarked by Ken Hazer. We also have this link. Obviously, Ken Hazer is a fan of Gorillas. Because he and my colleague, they're both fans, decided that this would be a neat one, and apparently they were right.
Yeah.
So we have that tonight for the first person that claims it. And let's see, what else do we
do
have?
another one?
Do another one? All right, let's do another remark. Let's do it, man.
I'm looking at this Ken Hazer remark right here.
Which one?
Green Lantern.
Shocker.
Rise of the Third Army.
Add it to the list.
Another shocker. Something about
we had a
colored
Green Lantern remark from Ken few weeks ago, like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was.
Yeah, you were complaining about the color of the ring.
The shade of green was not appropriate for Green Lantern, but
very.
I remember that.
All right, so Green Lantern #13, We Can Be Heroes, blank variant, remarked with an Orange Lantern sketch in full color by Ken Hazer. Suggested retail of $99.99. And we have it tonight as one of our other 5-star books at $50, and we have one available. So Nick is commenting on his own price slashing. He posts up in chat from $89.99 to $44 to $19.77. What? They heard you, Nick. You did this. You can't act all indignant in the chats now. You were the one. Everybody heard your voice, Nick.
It's your book.
I know. It's acting like we did something. Seriously, you said that. Okay, I'll review it tomorrow with the closed captioning on, and I'll prove it to you. I'll take a screenshot.
Oh,
AR, defend me.
I didn't hear anything.
There you go, boy, AR. See, one of the boys. AR says he didn't hear anything. Sorry, Nick. So
you don't see much love. I'll tell you right now.
Right.
I think when we had the kind of Spectrum War, obviously, front and center was sort of Sinestro.
Right.
And I think that continued. I mean, I think even after this very Spectrum War, Sinestro just became,
And Ron reminds us that he was the one that actually claimed the Green Lantern one.
Okay.
The green ring is fine. I'm beginning to think that John's eyesight is starting to go a little
No, I think different Green Lantern creators have different envisionings of the ring, and I think that if like Ethan Van Sciver's version, which sort of seems to be what's done a lot now,
right.
It's absolutely a lighter color of green. It's
Right.
not that sort of what I call Gil Kane green, which
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's a very different sort of color. Gil Kane did it. I've seen a couple Green Lantern that Mike Grell did, and he essentially just has the colors just saturate the page with.
And I want to give a shout out to Mandy again. Congratulations on picking up the early bird specials at $5. But
awesome.
I wanted you to know that I do see emails. So when your email just came across, it flashed onto my screen. I can't read the contents. It's that little preview box. But glad you picked those books up. And, definitely during the show with the problems that we have with Twitter, being able to see the chats, you can definitely, if you're watching on Twitter, you can definitely shoot me an email. I will see it. And we will certainly acknowledge it, on the show.
And you know what? And I tell people this all the time. I have a group of people that do this from the Twitter comic chat I'm part of. You can at me on Twitter because if you see a notification during the show, people are always like, why is he on his phone? Usually it's because there's a Twitter notification. Most of the times when I'm doing the show, the notifications are about the show, about a book or, something.
Right.
Show related. So, you can you're welcome to at me if you want while the show is on. I'll see the notification if I can, answer your question.
So Ron says, it's cool. I wouldn't know the difference. Don't worry about it, Ron. He's just particular about anything that's green. Green Hornet, Green Lantern. It's just an obsession with the man. He's still getting over the fact that he suddenly remembered a repressed memory that his Green Hornet watch was busted in a drunken stupor of an evening celebrating his retirement and totally repressed that memory.
That watch was absolutely shattered on that door. A buddy of mine has an expedition, and those are real solidly made. And I'll tell you right now, that watch did not survive contact with
when you came back and told me that story, I was cracking up, man. I was like, you repressed the memory.
I really was, and there it is. Oh, you're right. You know what though? This is good because I'm going to have a better version of a Green Hornet watch. There's a person who sometimes watches the show, follows along. They make steampunk gear.
Oh, cool.
So I'm hoping, I said, look, let me ask you how you feel about this. There are steampunk wristwatches out there. And I said, how would you feel about doing a Green Hornet legendary steampunk watch? And they asked me, it was funny, they said, oh, well, I'm going to have to look into the copyrights or trademarks or whatever. I'm like, oh, no, I'm sitting here in the office. You can just go ahead and do it. They wouldn't say anything. I'll talk to the George Trendle and Trent Stryker estates. It'll be fine.
Oh, too funny.
John, it was nice working with you.
So, all right, let's do another remark since we're on remarks anyway. So we also have Chewbacca #1 signed and remarked with a Lando sketch by Ken Hazer. Suggested retail of $89.99, and it is one of our 5-star. I think it's our final 5-star. At $50 books of the night. So again, I mean, just Ken Hazer. My gosh,
I know.
Incredible. The guy's absolutely incredible. So we have that also available tonight. It's kind of a Star Wars night, I guess, right?
It's kind of a Star Wars night. Let's blow through some of these X-Men books.
Let's do it.
There's always people that need to fill the gaps in this collection, right?
No, you are correct.
And
they're always tough to come by.
Is they're trying to upgrade from copies that, like we talked about before, they're ripped. If you're my age, you remember when comics came, all titles mailed flat from Marvel. There's a small group of people that didn't go to the comic book store. They didn't hit a spinner rack. They had subscriptions if you lived out in the middle of nowhere. And when these books would come, it'd come in a brown wrapper, and it was real difficult to get that book out of that brown wrapper without getting some part of that book ripped or smudged or torn,
right?
Because of the drop of adhesive used to keep the paper. You know what I mean? Because you have a comic, Then you had a big sheet of brown paper around it, and then there was always like the glue spot. And sometimes, if I guess it was late and they were in a hurry, the cover of your book got glued.
For Emmy Comics, yes, we can throw up the link. Kyle, when you get a chance, if you don't mind throwing the link up for Emmy Comics so we can get him his prize. And Sheldon, we're not doing that until next week. But Sheldon counted 16 Green Hornet mentions. Do I win?
Nice.
Next week, Sheldon, next week.
So in addition to what John was saying too, like that's what makes some of these older books harder to come by as well. Like I have an ASM 41 and I also have the Secret Wars 8. There's a complete crease going down the center from, it being shipped folded in half, and made it to the mailbox in half. So, I mean, I got really great deals on them. I don't care that there's a line going down the center, but some of those books are tough.
Yeah, Dave just mentioned it. And, in the comics in the 70s, if you had it mailed to you, they came in the brown wrapper. But, I grew up living in an apartment in West Philadelphia. So our mailbox was about this big, right?
Even if at first Marvel mailed them folded. Then they got complaints and they mailed them flat. But even if Marvel mailed it flat, based on where you lived, and you would see your mailman roll it up and you'd
just
be like
a circular and stick it right out.
And they just shove it. Some people have mail.
The subscription crease.
I know.
It's very difficult to find older books in good condition at prices that we have them here.
Hey, Adam, it's okay. We see your post. Shoot me an email if you would. As I said, I will get with accounting in the morning and figure out, what happened in the book and definitely track it for you and get it taken care of for you. And, we'll get it worked out for you in the morning. So the email is rex.wang@dynamite.com. And I'll deal with the first thing in the morning when I get in and accounting's in as well. And we'll get it tracked for you, brother. So up there it is. There's the link for you. And there's my email for anybody that needs it. So the next vintage book we're going to cover is X-Men number 127 with a presumed grade of 8.
The Power of Proteus.
And we have, presumed grade of 8.0, and we have one available at $64 tonight. So if you are looking to fill your gaps with the Uncanny X-Men, Bronze Age Uncanny X-Men, we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tonight, with 3 of them at 9.0 or better.
Read through them. Just do them all.
Fair enough.
This way people
that's a good idea.
You know what I mean? They can watch the rest of the show. This is before he starts. This is the kind of Claremont Burns sweet spot. This is Phoenix Must Die. This is the Power of Proteus. This is that era where you started finding out that the X-Men had won the Eagle Award and people were considering it like the finest comic book on the planet. And previously, Stan Lee has told the story of cons. Other creators have told the story of cons.
Right.
They couldn't sell X-Men to save their lives. People dug Spider-Man, the Avengers, Fantastic Four. It took a while for people to warm up to the X-Men. You know what I mean? There was a time where Doom Patrol outsold X-Men.
It's hard to believe.
To this day,
that is a $500 million property.
Would you say, AR?
I was gonna say, to this day, my dad does not like the X-Men, like at all. So I barely grew up with the X-Men, so that's why my X-Men knowledge is like nothing. But we have these big books up, and these are harder books to come by. And to some people, they're gonna treat this like, man, that's gold right there. That is a hard book. But someone like me, I would look at it like, all right, cool, X-Men book, big first appearance. That's cool to somebody else, but not my taste. Pretty much because of how I grew up, though.
Right. No, I understand. So, all right. So I'm going to read off the rest of them we have for the night. So we also have X-Men number 128, presumed grade of a 9.2. And we have that available. We have one, obviously. All of the vintage books that I'm going to list, we have only one of. And we have that one at $95 tonight. Then we also have X-Men number 131 with a presumed grade of 8.0. And we have that for $100 tonight. Then we have X-Men number 132 with a presumed grade of 7.0, and we have that one for $50 tonight. And then X-Men number 136, presumed grade of 9, and we have that for $80. And then finally, we have X-Men number 137, presumed grade of 9.0, and we have that for $150 tonight. So all of those are available to the first person that claims them in the evening. And I also want to remind everybody that if you're watching this show after the live portion and you're picking it up on our YouTube channel later, everything, if it's still available, we will honor the price that you hear tonight, except for those books that are best offer takes, because the best offer take books, whoever makes the best offer takes the book. So those would not be available. If you're
those
watching
are
this
show specific.
Yeah, so those would not be available. Exactly. So sorry guys, just
No,
Yes.
and
down in the
again, this
comments.
X-Men run is, you can't tell the X-Men story without telling the Dark Phoenix saga, right?
Right.
And my guess would be when Disney starts doing the X-Men again, Marvel, Disney, however you want to look at it, they'll build towards that eventually. Clearly, Marvel Studios has a style.
Right.
And it starts slow, build up, and link the different movies, right?
Right.
So you will eventually get this story. They'll cast a new Magneto. They'll cast a new Professor Xavier. They'll cast the various X-Men characters, and you'll see it. You'll start with the whole, Jean Grey is sort of like in the background, right?
Right.
And then she winds up being, this cosmically powered individual. That story works. We've seen people do that story with other characters over and over and over again, pretty much every decade since the 80s. There's a character that starts with, maybe they don't have the highest power level. And then something happens and they find an artifact or they're exposed to something and one thing leads to another. And then suddenly, you get Spider-Man as Captain Universe in the Spider-Verse story.
What's funny is that was probably the height as a kid of my comic collecting days was, and I think I have most of these issues at home, ironically enough. And I had a few friends, and after school we'd hit the comic shop, and they were the ones who said, "Oh, you got to read this Uncanny X-Men with Claremont and John Byrne, and you're gonna love it." And blah 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 blah. And I started picking it up, and I did. I ended up loving it, and so those actually I have in my collection, ironically enough.
The X-Men was always, Chris Claremont said in a bio that you can, about this time era, it's him, it's Ann Nocenti, it's a few other creators, and they're talking about this.
Right.
And they're talking about how X-Men is essentially Marvel's Doom Patrol, right? And Lee and Kirby didn't really do a whole lot. They refined it, but they didn't do a whole lot that was different than Doom Patrol.
Right.
Right? The book just doesn't make it. And then you get this tiny little period where Roy Thomas and Neil Adams work on the book. Not a lot of issues, only a handful of issues. But they're just like told, try something else. Because obviously this isn't selling.
Right.
So that was when they kind of take the wheel and yank it into another direction. Everyone who came after them stayed in that direction. So by the time you get to the books that we have here today, here's Doom Patrol maybe being published, maybe some Doom Patrol characters are in other books,
right,
essentially forgotten in DC. And you've got X-Men, which is like the standard bearer for art and storytelling in this period for Marvel.
Right.
And I think that anytime that happens with X-Men, you'll have, they sort of kind of come back a little bit to the middle. Then you get like Bob Harris and Jim Lee and people like this that take the X-Men out.
Right.
The farther you take, the more unconventional you take the X-Men, the more successful they always are.
Right.
You know what I mean? When they do these endless sort of crossovers, I think to a certain extent, the fans almost get numb to it. You know what I mean? It's just one after another after another. When you take some time and do some storytelling, especially when it's storytelling not maybe done elsewhere. I mean, right now, I think I've seen the same 5 stories. There's a cosmic supervillain takeover. There's a vampire plague. There's a zombie plague. One of the heroes becomes a villain in the future. And it seems like they take those story ideas and they put them everywhere, right?
Right.
When
It's
you
like a
get-
cookie cutter.
Like a cookie
Like a
cutter. When you
template.
get to this, this had not been done before.
Yeah.
Now, this looks cookie cutter. Well, everybody gets, cosmic powers. Not in 1980 they did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
So
can't
it
stress
actually
it.
became the template for
This became
going
the
forward.
template for a lot of the stuff you'll see later.
So we got to go to our final break. Stay with us. We'll be back in a few minutes.
the way to go.
So we're learning about the green egg and cooking deep dish pizza. All right, so this is important stuff.
Right now, you're seeing pizza ovens being sold. Some of them are very reasonably priced, and that's great. Some of them are kits that you have to put on an existing grill. They can be a little bit wonky, and if you're not particularly handy with tools, maybe think twice about that. And then there are some that are kits that are they're super expensive, $2,000-$3,000. You get yourself like a $700 or $800 big green egg. Watch a few YouTube videos. You do amazing deep dish pizzas. It comes with the pan. It fits perfectly. You can customize the dough to your.
Why don't you make it and then bring it in so I can try it? Since you bash on a local restaurant that I like, which will remain unnamed, we only say positive things. But Dave brings up an interesting question that I'd love to address. Adam, I saw the email come across. Thank you, buddy. I will definitely address it first thing in the morning when I get back in the office. Dave says Giant Size X-Men #1 hit in the mid-'70s, and it was a perfect storm of outsider counterculture society heroes that weren't normal like Superman and Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think they were in most cases they weren't even American.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You sort of had a precursor of almost like Justice League International to a certain extent, where you had Canadians. I think Banshee's Irish. You had Rogue from Creole country. Originally, Storm was from she's like an African.
Somewhere in Africa.
Somewhere in Africa.
Yeah,
I don't know if they ever gave a real. At the time, I don't know if they gave like a specific.
Right.
And I think Wolfsbane was from Scotland, or she might have come a little bit later. Colossus was from Russia.
Right.
And you just didn't have that. You didn't have too much of that.
What's interesting is I think that what they created was something, and this is a great comment, Dave. I think what they created was they took what was happening in society and they translated it into mutants. They became representative of those that were discriminated against or marginalized in society, and they became representative of that because of their mutant powers.
I remember when you had Kitty Pryde with the Star of David, and it's the first time I remember seeing a Jewish character in a mainstream book.
Right.
I just didn't see that before, and everybody knew Jewish people. It wasn't like it was some weird mythological thing. I mean, people had, Jewish people in their families, Jewish restaurants and delis are all over the place. Like they just weren't in comics at all.
Yeah.
They get the idea to do Kitty Pryde, and you know what I mean. She just happens to be, Jewish, and I think that's sort of exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It was not the same thing you saw all the time.
Yeah, it gave a real life feel to the characters, and was relevant to the time that we were in, as opposed to a Superman or a Spider-Man who had existed for a really long time and laid outside of what was happening in the world at the moment. And I thought that was what really drew me to X-Men was it was as Dave puts it, a counterculture, outsider, marginalized part of society.
Elliot S. Maggin talked about this. That's a guy you should Google if you don't know who it is, because he was the first me. He started as a fan and wound up working in books. Elliot S. Maggin said, and it might have been Amazing Heroes, I'm trying to remember which one it was, that Marvel Comics was New York City. DC Comics was essentially New York State in terms of the mindset and in terms of exactly what you're talking about there, diversity. If you've ever been to upstate New York in the 1970s, it's essentially very homogenous. It's farms. There's a few cities here and there, but, they're very metropolis in nature. Clean. You go to Albany, you go to Syracuse, clean, very orderly. You get to New York City, and I think that's exactly what you had with Marvel and DC. Marvel embraced their New York City-ness.
Right.
And you started getting characters from different backgrounds and ethnicities in different parts of the world, just like you would have in New York City.
No, exactly.
I have friends who live in New York City, and it's nothing for them to run down the corner and they're meeting someone from Egypt or Ethiopia or Mongolia, someplace so far away. The odds of that happening, in like small rural communities, not too much does that happen.
So to segue into that, let's do the next book, Wolverine #1, Alex Ross variant, Silver Signature Series, signed by Benjamin Percy.
Love it.
Suggested retail of $69.99, and tonight we have it as one of our 5-star books at $50. And I think that obviously they use that in the movies, that whole concept. And that, for me, the storyline, the government, starting to a registration system for mutants, and that type of thing. These are all the things during that day, or even in the past, something like the concentration camps that they touched on, which was real life stuff. It wasn't a complete out of world fantasy, that type of thing. And that really drew me to it because it had relevance to what was happening in the world at that moment or had happened in the past.
I think that was what Valiant Comics did in their first incarnation, because people who remember that, they were already talking about what would eventually become the opioid epidemic. They were talking about what would eventually become displaced or homeless persons. Right. They were talking about people who came from different backgrounds. Maybe they were homeless. Member of there was an abused character, I remember at one point.
Yes.
They introduced eventually gay characters. Valiant sort of saw what had happened before and went, there's a market for this.
Right.
There's a market for different. And I think you look now, and all you have is different.
Yeah.
All you have is different, which is why I think right now they're selling so many books. And there's so many versions of beloved characters. If you're a Spider-Man fan, if you're a Batman fan, there is a version of that character out there somewhere for you.
Yes.
I don't care if it's like a manga character. I don't care if it's more of like a throwback character. Somewhere out there, maybe not every single month is it being published, but somewhere out there. Perfect example, when I first got to Twitter a long time ago, I complained about the lack of pulp characters. I said, it's not a whole lot of pulp being done. This is some time ago. Dynamite, Dark Horse, a few other companies, they really decide to unload on pulp characters. Dark Horse did Captain Midnight. And these were characters that were all but forgotten.
Right.
So while you had characters that were new and different, there was still room for pulp characters, which are essentially set in the 1930s. We have different versions of the Rocketeer that are done. And I think what you have now is you have a comics universe, a comics publishing universe that is way more inclusive, and there's something for everybody. That's why we have the books we do. I say this all the time. 15 years ago, this wouldn't have been the show.
No. Be almost all Marvel.
It would just be all Marvel, DC, maybe some Image or something.
Right.
But now we've got, not only do we have a ton of books, but we're doing the show from an independent comic book store.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? So I think to a certain extent, there's a reason, because there was a question someone DM'd me during the break about, do we ever have theme shows? Not really.
No, but it's something to think about.
I mean, it's something to think about for sure. The Ken Hazer Power Hour.
Right.
But we try to get, because we're trying to help the comic industry as a whole.
Yes.
We try to do a little bit of everything. Obviously, especially with me here, we tend to talk about Dynamite a little bit more. But just looking up here, there's Marvel, there's DC, there's Image.
Yeah, we got it all.
There's Dynamite, obviously. This is a week where I'm actually surprised we don't have more.
I mean, but we've had things like IDW.
Well, wait, we have IDW.
Yeah, we have Image's Walking Dead. Yeah. But tonight we don't. But sometimes we'll have IDW.
We always try to do, like a variety of stuff. So
we support all our fellow publishers.
Yeah, we just did it. If you guys couldn't hear them.
And this is why I love indies so much, because you're talking about the variety, and what you're going to get from Marvel. You know what you're going to get with DC. DC does have their cool little horror series that they come out with, and every once in a while, kind of a random one to, hit some other fans, but you know what you're going to get for the most part. But, we're talking about, we got Dynamite, Image, Boom, all these smaller publishers too, AWA, talking about Valiant, Scout Comics. There's so many cool books out there that people get to experience. And, I was waiting. I didn't want to cut you guys off, but I mean, we segued into
cut us off. We don't care.
Just your take on X-Men. I have never heard that type of a take. I'm going to be honest. I always say I don't know a lot about X-Men. I've never read a lot of stuff, but the whole just these people, these X-Men characters came from all these different walks of life. It was a time where you got to see all this different culture coming together. See, I don't know that. So to hear that take and to hear both of your opinions on it, that's such a cool thing. And that honestly made me more excited to get into X-Men because, it's not just the typical, oh, it's some superheroes doing this. I mean, I know who the characters are, but I don't know the backstory on most of them.
Exactly. I mean, during that period, I remember, I
Colossus had trouble with capitalism.
Yes.
I mean, that was
Russian.
like his story
Soviet.
because
yes.
he was from like a Soviet farm collective.
Yes.
He was like an out and out communist.
I always felt like they needed to
he
do more
shows
with
up
him
at Professor
in the
Xavier's palatial estate.
Yep.
Obviously, Professor X has a few bucks. He's got his own jet. He's got his own limos. The X-Men never lack for resources. And I remember that being like a huge problem for this guy that lives on a farm collective, has maybe 3 sets of clothes and 1 pair of boots, and he's used to working every day from sunup to sundown.
It was interesting. And Sean just posted it in the chats. Thanks for joining us, Sean, in support of indie brands, and Adam as well. You know what? I always felt like they should have done more with Colossus in the movies because he when I was reading.
I think everybody felt that way.
Yeah, when I was reading at that point, Colossus was probably one of my favorite characters because how cool is that? You can turn into metal and have metal skin, and
there's this scene in one of the movies, and I'm always a big crowd reaction person, right? There's a few things I know about. One of the things I know about is a pop from pro wrestling. When you're in a movie, you can hear what the audience really reacts to. I don't care what they say in a focus group later. I listen to it. And it's one of the X-Men movies. It might be maybe X-Men 2. There's a scene where the mansion is being attacked. And I guess they're trying to break through a wall or something. And there's a brief scene where Colossus kind of armors up.
Yes.
And you can hear the whole theater I'm in. They're like, yes, they waited for this.
When they're trying to escape the mansion. Right?
Yeah. He just basically blasts through the wall. You know what I mean? He just crushes it, and he helps all the younger, sort of like, we'll say, prepubescent X-Men, ex-toddlers, like, to escape, right? And I'm just like, you missed the boat because you had him in the movie for about 60 seconds.
So here we go. Dave's got another good question. Wow, Dave's on fire tonight. All right, so Dave has a question for AR. Do you know about the religious element that Nightcrawler brought in? That Claremont and Byrne era was heavy on social themes and not just super fights. Very, very good point. That is an excellent point that Dave brought up. And yes, because Kurt Wagner played football.
Kurt Wagner was, he's one of these guys that was very religious, I remember.
Yes.
He was like a practicing Catholic, I think.
He was,
and he looked like a demon.
So that was the like juxtaposition of it. That was awesome.
I mean, you look at Nightcrawler, he's got the forked tail, you know what I mean? And he very much looks like a demon. And then he opens his mouth, and the guy is like a regular church-going religious person.
Exactly. And it was, and that was the magic of that era with the X-Men, I think, is that they really did deal with those social issues and found a way to incorporate them into the characters, and it brought how do I say this? A guy can turn into metal, a guy that can, teleport from one place to another. Yeah,
you didn't have a lot of that stuff.
Well, that was crazy. I mean, that's
had
still
diverse
crazy.
backgrounds and new powers.
Right, but the thing about it was, it didn't make them seem unbelievable.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because of Nightcrawler was super religious. Colossus came from the Soviet Union, and
you had Banshee was essentially a crook long before the age of Thunderbolts and characters in Marvel. A lot of times, comics mimic pro wrestling. And one way they do it is there's heel turns where a good character goes bad because something's happened. And then there's a face turn where a bad character decides, you know what, I've had enough of the bad life. And I think in the case of Banshee, he's one of the very first characters I remember that he was part of a supervillain crew. And he decides, you know what, I'm good. Also, he was an older character.
Yes.
Characters in comic books were always really young if they were active members of the team. He was a middle-aged dude. He'd done jail time. That was not the sort of thing
that you expected
from
your
a
superhero
team. Especially, let's be honest, the team before is Iceman, Beast. These are all essentially, American suburban kids. Like maybe one of them came from the city, but for the most part, these were like American suburban kids.
I mean, it for me, it was so influential. I got to be honest with you. So I remember the character of Moira McTaggart, right? And yeah. And that era of the X-Men had such an impression on me. I actually wanted to name my daughter Moira, and of course her mom nixed that idea.
She said no.
Shot that right out. But that was the kind of influence that it had on me. You know?
I think there's a lot of that actually.
It made them real, even though you can do all these things and you have all these superpowers. Because they had real world problems, it made them seem more believable as opposed to a Superman or a Batman. You know, Superman, okay, you're from a different planet, from planet Krypton. Batman, okay, well, you're super rich. Okay.
What's your superpower?
I'm rich, you know, which is a funny line in that movie. But to me, it's like, how do you relate to that? You know, I'm not super rich. I don't live in Wayne Manor, you know.
Well, it's essentially the next iteration of what happens with Star Trek, classic Star Trek.
Right.
The number of engineers and astronauts and computer scientists and people who work for NASA or the JPL, especially our generation, that say, yeah, I watched Star Trek as a kid and I decided I wanted to go into space. I wanted to do this for a living. It's endless. I was at a Star Trek convention years ago, and George Takei talked about how honored he was to have members of the military and members of NASA come up to him and talk and say, you know, I saw you on Star Trek. I saw Asian American at the helm. You know what I mean? He told this great story in King of Prussia, PA, about how he met someone from KOP that worked for the Navy and steered submarines. He was a sub driver.
Right.
And essentially this guy growing up at
watching
Star Trek, Mr. Sulu's his favorite character. And now here's the guy 40 years later, an Annapolis graduate, and he's like one of the highest ranking sub drivers in the Navy. This was probably maybe 10, 12 years ago, George Takei is telling this story. And I mean, think about that. And I think to a certain extent with the X-Men, you had that too. Tons of people in the comic book industry talk about it's that sort of giant size X-Men #1 era and on that made them think, I want to do this too.
Yeah. I know, I agree with you. So Sean has a question for AR. Do you have a favorite X-Men character that isn't one of the more popular ones that you'd like to see more stories about? I think you can answer that question, but it says AJ, but I think he means AR.
Now, to be honest, even going off of Dave's, I had no idea about the Nightcrawler religious element. And as far as a favorite X-Men character that isn't a popular one, when I talk about I don't know a lot about X-Men, like I was totally zoned in on your conversation because my knowledge on X-Men is like literally zero.
Well, that happens almost never. That we know more than you do, AR.
I know. That's what I was going to say. I'm at a loss here. Usually,
after the show, I'm going to go buy a Powerball ticket.
Listening to you guys talk about it,
my night.
Last time I went home, I actually took home my Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 1. I think I actually have Volume 1 and Volume 2. Read a little bit, not much at all. I started reading, other things, but you guys talking about it, I'm sitting there like, man, I have those. When I move back home, I'm definitely going to pull them out and start reading and get my knowledge up.
Let me tell you, and I want to address Sean's question because, and I know he's a character that isn't, I don't know, not well loved in the X-Men universe, and I'm talking about Cyclops. Okay. Yeah, you see, John's already laughing. Okay, that's the same face he gave me when I started talking about this local restaurant that I like that he doesn't like.
No, I was going to say if you follow Gail Simone on Twitter, about half of her shtick,
I know she's not
is doing stand-up comedy about how Cyclops is about as exciting as watching paint dry.
You see, I have to. I'm gonna have.
I hear that a lot, though. I hear a lot of people do not like Cyclops all that much.
So here's the thing.
Well, he's the first X-Men, right?
Yeah, but wait. Okay, and no disrespect to Gail Simone, obviously very talented creator. I mean, beyond.
Yeah, she writes her stuff, so don't mess this.
Okay, well, I don't care. Okay, now we're stepping on toes. I guess for me, the reason Cyclops was such an attractive character was because, first of all, his power was such a curse. Okay, imagine going through life. You got to wear these glasses. If you take the glasses off, you could kill someone. Okay, and how difficult that must be from a day-to-day perspective. All right, and then your power is, and you've got people that can, turn into, turn into metal, metal armor. You've got Phoenix, who obviously is at that point,
cosmic being.
Yeah, cosmic being. You've got Nightcrawler, which has a far more useful power than laser beams or force beams out of your eyes. And then he had a brother who had an equally tough time in terms of Havoc not being able to control his power, and it was almost like a handicap. Like those two characters, or especially Cyclops, was really a handicapped superhero.
Well, when he was in his civilian guise, he'd have the dark glasses.
Right.
And he would almost look like he was blind, visually impaired, like Matt Murdock.
Yep.
I mean, I think there's great visuals there. Some of that early stuff that Kirby draws, but particularly what's done by Werner Roth. I forget the name. Jay Gavin, I think, was his pen name. But Werner Roth would do these great kind of panels where everybody's in their suit and they're going out, right? And Jean Grey is in like a 60s go-go outfit. I mean, I guess you make the argument she's always in the 60s go-go outfit, but she's in the 60s go-go outfit. And Angel is rich dude. So he's wearing like a high-level suit.
Right.
And then you've got like Iceman and Beast who are also in nice clothes or whatever. And then you've got Cyclops off to the side. His suit is maybe a little bit shabbier. He's not quite so excited to be going out. He's got the big dorky glasses on. I think Werner Roth, with just a few panels, really kind of denoted exactly what you're talking about. The thing there that, life isn't that great for me. I know you guys want to go to the coffee a-go-go, but, this isn't that great for me. Somebody bumps into me, knocks off my glasses, and like
you all gonna die. You all gonna die.
Top offer time. Who's got the top offer?
Who's got the top offer?
Did we not have a best offer book?
We did, but let me see. Well, let's do a recap because we're coming to the end anyway. But I don't think, unless I missed it.
So we only had the two $5.
We never got to the best offer books tonight, fellas.
Monday.
But we do have a photo from a satisfied customer.
No, we had the best offer Warlord of Mars starting at 10.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we did.
I don't think we had a lot of best offer books tonight.
But we have a very satisfied customer from one of our customers that I asked Kyle to put up.
Nice.
Oh, nice. There it is. Hey, it's Jen.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? I'm glad she got that.
I love it. She does a lot of shows, but for some reason I really enjoy what's in the box.
No, I do too. So let's do a quick recap before we get to the end here. So we had the Dynamite 10-pack reader set, $5. Available tonight. Will be available at every show. Great way to get your collection started. Great holiday gift. Star Wars #1, remarked by Ken Hazer with R2-D2 sketch.
Hold on one second. Let me just pause you 1 second.
Go ahead.
If we don't get to everything, one of the reasons sometimes it seems maybe there's a little bit of off-topicalities, what we try to do is we're trying to create the comic book shop vibe.
Yes.
Which, you know what I mean? I wanted to throw this out there. Having AR, having Robbie, having different people join us. It's not easy. Like, it would be fine to just throw up a website. These are the books for sale. Click what you want or whatever. But part of the comic experience is really the interaction with other fans, friends, people maybe that aren't friends.
Well, let me hop on that because you bring up a very good point. There are a lot of shows out there, and I think I may have mentioned this on AR show yesterday. There are a lot of shows out there where they do, they're just throwing comics up and they're claim
and
shows,
people,
and they do great. I mean? And it's a different kind of format. And I know their viewers, they're just like, what's the next book? What's the next book?
Yeah.
And you're throwing books up continuously, and that's great. But there are a lot of shows like that. And I think when we started this with the experience, we were looking to bring something different to the table. We want to offer you great books at great prices. We want to support our local comic book shops. But I think that the key is we also wanted to create that comic book shop vibe.
We try to give some kind of context. Like if you watch AR show and Robbie show to a certain extent, they contextualize things.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because there's like this massive flood of content, like endless. I know people who do other people who do shows like AR, and it's just a massive flood of content that, you know what I mean? It's almost like Jenga in reverse. You're like, it's super speed. You're trying to figure it out. By slowing things down a little bit, taking some time to discuss the X-Men, we're trying to, explain to people why these issues are so important, why the price is sort of where it is.
No, I
know what I
agree.
mean?
I completely agree with you there.
Hell, even now I'm knowledgeable in the X-Men.
There you go. See,
like,
now you're gonna
That's the
read
one
these-
time
yeah.
I
now you're gonna start
something.
reading it. So
Like that was the cool thing about all this, you know. You got these books, you got Ken Hazer's artwork, and it's not just all right. We got Star Wars up next, signed and remarked Ken Hazer. Boom. No, it's like, oh, Ken Hazer does this, he does this, he does this, and same with these X-Men books. Look at the conversation that literally came from just a couple of those books. I feel like I can actually talk to people about the X-Men now. Honestly,
there you go.
Awesome.
So to complete the recap real quick, so we also had Gunslinger Spawn #1 variant incentive cover signed by Todd McFarlane for $799.99. We had Wolverine #1 Alex Ross variant silver signature series signed by Benjamin Percy for $50. We had the Comic Collectors Mega Mix set, which was picked up by Ron for $50.
That was a great set.
Yeah, Justice League Rebirth #1 first printing CGC graded guaranteed 9.8 at $50. Mandy picked up our $5 claim books Shadow, Midnight in Moscow, and Solar Man of the Atom. We had Warlord of Mars, Deja Thor's #20, high-end Paul Renaud black and white ultra limited cover. This was a best offer book starting at $10. Chewbacca #1 signed and remarked by with a Lando sketch by Ken Hazer for $50. Green Lantern #13 with an Orange Lantern Lerflez sketch in full color by Ken Hazer for $50. And then, let me see, we had the vintage books X-Men #126, presumed grade 8.5 at 80, X-Men #127, presumed grade 8 at 64, X-Men #128, presumed grade 9.2 at 95, X-Men #131, presumed grade of 8 at 100, X-Men #132, presumed grade 7 at 50, X-Men #136, presumed grade of 9 for 80, X-Men #137, presumed grade of 9 for 150. And we hope you guys enjoyed the show. Stevie B, thanks for joining
AR,
in.
thanks for joining us as
Oh,
always.
thank you,
AR,
thank you
so
for
much.
having me. I
Don't
love it
forget
every
Friday,
time.
original art at 7 p.m.
So we have
And
original
Saturday?
art with Nick and John at 7 to 8 Eastern time, and then we also have we'll be working with Jem Mint on his channel for our a massive auction. I think it's going to be
Awesome and claim sale.
awesome auction and claim sale, and like
Saturday at 8.
Saturday at 8. So there you go. Again, thank you everyone for viewing. We hope we kept you entertained this evening, and join us again next Monday.
Thanks,
and
everybody.
next Wednesday.
Absolutely.